Hello and welcome to Wrestle Opinionated, our weekly show all about the great shows of AEW. We are your hosts. I am Morg, and this is...
generic Fallout character, Matthew Strange.
I've
got a little mohawk and a handlebar mustache. I'm a generic Fallout character now.
That's fair. So how's your week been?
Yeah, all right, actually. The washing machine, which we have not had since the start of lockdown, has finally arrived, so I can start doing some washing. Apparently lockdown's ending the week after I cut my own hair and now have a little... somewhere between Jimmy Havoc's dad and Lance Archer's dad, mohawk / mini side run thing. The kind of hair you'd love in your gothic world, which, you know, makes me just look like a post-apocalyptic father, as I'm saying. How about you?
Not too bad. Nothing particularly exciting. Work week, and have spent the weekend playing computer games and catching up on Lucifer.
Oh, TV show. Yeah, I saw the first series. I was like, due to things we'll discuss later, I was like, Jake the Snake's King Cobra from the 80s. I've done some reading, yeah.
Oh, and this week, Eleanor and myself, the Raptor and myself, we also cast Final Fantasy VII, the movie, with wrestlers. That's about the most exciting.
Okay, I don't know a lot of Final Fantasy VII, but I'm in for this initial discussion. Who is Cloud?
The Cloud we slightly cheated with. This is because we watched... It came from us watching a match last night. Our Cloud is Stephen Amell. He has wrestled, but he's also a good enough actor to pull it off. And that was what actually started the conversation.
Machine Gun Arm Man?
Big E.
Okay, cool. I assume probably one of your favourite characters. Is it Vincent?
Vincent, I can't remember who we cast as Vincent. That is my favourite character. Yeah,
it's Goth Vampire Man, isn't it?
Goth Vampire Man is my favourite character. I can't remember who we cast him as, because we went through about three different versions for him.
Fair. And my favourite Final Fantasy VII character is a man who's never played Final Fantasy VII, a Native American wolf thing.
Now, we went for... because that's going to be a CGI character.
Obviously, see a voice actor.
Yeah, so someone with a nice... And it's the character, I think, should have a slightly caramel, nice voice. So I went with Kenny Omega.
Okay, cool. I can see that.
Yeah, I think
is it Red 13?
Red 13.
Oh, boom! That's literally from James AD playing It Around Me when I was a kid. So that's not too bad, if I'm honest. I'm quite pleased with myself. I obviously know Sephiroth and...
Sephiroth
Tifa?
Tifa was the one we were struggling with.
That is Cloud's girlfriend, isn't it, who gets stabbed?
Kind of.
Or is that the other one?
That's Eris.
Or is she Boxing Gloves Lady?
Yeah, she's Boxing Gloves Lady. So we were difficult with Tifa. Though now thinking about it, probably Ronda Rousey would be the best one for that. But I'd have to discuss that with the rap.
The punchiness.
Yeah.
Here's a weird discussion we weren't expecting at the start of the podcast.
Well, the one-winged angel. We did think about casting Kenny as Sephiroth, obviously, because of the one-winged angel.
Having seen the animated film from X years ago, as much as I like Kenny, he's not Sephiroth. He can like Sephiroth, but he doesn't... I'm not seeing a connection.
Yeah, and I think we went with Seth Rollins, or I can't remember who the other choice was.
This is like... next time I'm going to get Nick on so we can discuss wrestlers as 40k Primarchs.
we should definitely. Right, anyway. So,
to the show.
So we start off, do we have any news, Mr. Strange? Because I haven't managed to find much AEW news this week.
Weirdly, no. We had the live tapings last week, which obviously we got our first new live show again this week. Otherwise, not really. It's a bit dead on the old AEW news. I've been scouring R² Circle to try and find something of note, but looks like most of the drama and intrigue stuff's going on at the WWE at the moment.
Yes, but nothing there that really affects
Crosses
AEW as
over.
such.
Yeah, we've got a peaceful week, which is
Yes, I saw something, and I will slap my wrist because I didn't follow it up, because I think I saw it when I was scrolling through something at work that suggested Cody might actually have his name now, but it might have been in reference to him trying to get it. So I will try and follow that up for next week.
We'll make sure we're armed next. Well, at least
Well, I had a look and couldn't find anything either.
We've got everything else covered anyway. Like normally, I've fucked up something. Like, oh no, I haven't come up with this moment or something. So having a slow news week isn't bad this time because I'm prepared for everything else. I've not let you down.
So before we go any further, our show, we have a review system. We have a tier list review system. Now, you may have listened to this show many times, and we try to mix it up every week, but this could also be your first time listening, so therefore you might need to know what our tier system is. So I will now hand over to Mr. Strange, and Mr. Strange will explain our tier system.
Okay, so the tier list is getting a better known out in the media world at the moment. It's being used a bit more in things like YouTube, but obviously originally it comes from Japanese computer games and Japanese anime. If you've ever played the old Resident Evil games or watched Hunter x Hunter, you'll understand how it goes. It's a alphabetical system, works from D up to A bit like school grades, with S being the top tier. I had a shout from the Raptor last time, I believe, requesting I did this in dinosaurs. So I have in fact done some research into dinosaurs, which is a complete pain in the ass because you try researching dinosaurs without everything being about Jurassic Park. I've had to go digging. And I'd like to apologize for those of you who have favorite dinosaurs that have not been placed in the correct match category. So D would be an understandard match. The time has been wasted. You could be doing something else. You're just generally displeased. So I've gone for Pachycephalosaurus. Small, we don't know much about it. Herbivorous and combatty, but not really as combatty as a bunch of the other cool ones. Almost created a bit of a racist issue in the Jurassic World films because of the abbreviating of their name. So basically, nothing about the Pachycephalosaurus really lends itself to being your on-show dinosaur, and that's why it's a D-rank dinosaur. In C, I had to think of what is the average dinosaur? What is the average match? You know, you're happy enough with the wrestling, you're happy enough with the story, you're generally pleased, but it hasn't taken you to that specialist level that you're really getting a proper experience from. So I've gone with the basic Triceratops. Not all members of the Ceratops family. It looks good. It's not as good as some of the other Ceratops. It's done quite well in fights, but hasn't always won. It's in a bunch of iconic things we see. But it's not the top tier. The Triceratops is the C tier match. I enjoy the Triceratops, but it's not hitting any of those specialist niches. I'm going into a little bit of extra detail just for the Raptor. In B, I'm afraid to say, from an overall standpoint, is the Velociraptor. The accurate Velociraptor. It's a strong pack hunter. It's smart from what we understand. It's iconic. It's smaller than we think it is due to Jurassic Park. And it's got feathers, but it is a good tier dinosaur. When you're looking at your pack predator, that's the one you want. But it just doesn't quite cross over into being the best of the pack predators, which is arguably the I can't pronounce it, the bigger Velociraptor, the ones in the film are based off. So yeah, you've stepped into an area of speciality. You've got good story, or you've got good exceptional wrestling. That's what the Velociraptor is. We all know it. We all love it. A rank. Your A rank match is where it does one thing so well you can ignore the others, or it just does everything fantastically. You've got either exceptional wrestling with a bit of story, exceptional story with good wrestling, or maybe it's just good at everything and you would not have spent that time doing anything else. So obviously I've gone for the A rank dinosaur of the Ankylosaurus, the PvP tank. Fuck you, small builds. Fuck you, predators. Here I come. Rammy head. Stabby sides. Fuck you, tail. The Ankylosaurus. It looks badass. You know what it is. Gotta love it. It's an A rank dinosaur. And in S rank, the ultimate match. The match where you are blown away, where the story and wrestling comes together in art. You've got limb work. You've got looks. You've got presentation. And obviously I have to go for my personal favorite dinosaur, Spinosaurus. It's all-terrain. It's one of the biggest land carnivores known to man. You see it, you know it. It's the big one with the fin on its back. It's got the fin is sick. It's got cool coloration. The feather designs for it are wicked, depending on how they go. It's all-terrain. It goes in the sea. It preys on sharks. It killed the T-Rex in Jurassic Park 2, which, although a terrible film, the T-Rex has been the one staple. Spinosaurus has got it. It is viewed as being one of the most successful land-to-sea predator builds of all time. And that is what an S-rank dinosaur and match is. There we go. I was prepared. I've done a lot of reading on dinosaurs this morning.
Yes. So now we move over to our weekly look at Twitter or social media. And what have you found this week that you would recommend our listeners to go and have a look at? Or has there been some interesting Twitter feud?
Twitter feuds are down, obviously, but hopefully we'll get that building back up next week with actual wrestlers coming back together. I think it's only fair I shout out sort of the dad of indie wrestling, Colt Cabana, who over the last few weeks has been machine gunning out interviews with various wrestlers, various wrestling promoters. There's been one out like every day or every other day. For those of our viewers who don't know, Colt Cabana is sort of viewed in the indie scene as being the guy who made indie sort of relevant again. He pushed his own podcast, The Art of Wrestling by Colt Cabana, which you can also listen to, but just prioritize this one first, please. He's got a YouTube channel where you can see a bunch of things. You can look up the old stories of Colt Cabana being MJF's dad, which is a brilliant set of comedy wrestling. He does podcasts, videos. He's got YouTube. He's got Twitter. He's forever in contact with other people. He's kind of the savior of the indie scene, as I said. He's the one who basically got indie wrestlers doing their vlogs and things, which is obviously now a huge part of actually surviving in the industry. If you want to know about the struggle of wrestling and where it was 20 years ago and where it is today, and you know, watch some wrestling, watch this wonderful combination of British strong style with the comedy aspect of storytelling. Colt can do everything. He's good on the mic, he's funny, he brings other people in, he's built this industry along with the high spots community. So yeah, look up Colt on Twitter, watch, listen to his podcast, watch his videos, follow him up. He's forever talking inside the industry where you get a little bit more of the heart and soul of the wrestlers. So that's my recommendation. Just Google Colt Cabana, Twitter him, The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana, put that in. He's got a whole website. God, I hate him.
I love Colt.
He's so good.
The Art of Wrestling was the first wrestling podcast I listened to, and it was an interview with John Morrison, Johnny Impact, Johnny Elite, if we have our way. But yeah,
Jonathan Hennigan, I believe.
Yes. So it's that time now where we look at the week in AEW, and as always, we kick off with Being the Elite or BTE. We give our thoughts on it, whether we thought it's worth watching, whether you need to watch it, or whether they should have actually put some of the stuff that was on it in AEW. What did you think of BTE this week?
It was all right. I've got a few notes I've worked through. I'm enjoying the kick-out challenge with I've forgotten his name.
Brandon Cutler.
Oh God, his name just went. I could see him in my mind, and I was like, "There it goes, just float away into this." And yeah, I'm enjoying the kick-out challenge for the fact the Bucks just batter him. That makes me laugh. The Taz's call-in thing, like I don't really get the future-seeing man anyway, but it was. Did yours cut off like all the time? Was that terribly recorded, or was my PC playing up at the time? Because
I don't remember it cutting off, so maybe it was a PC. No, it did keep cutting off. Yes,
yeah, it was like
it was obviously internet recorded, and we've had that same problem. To be fair,
we have, but we don't run a multi-million wrestling company where you can choose to have somebody edit that out. If I'm honest, we are two guys in our respective.
I think
crews.
To be fair, when it's BTE, it is just two guys. I mean, they've got more experience doing it than us. but it is just two guys, because I believe that Being the Elite is just Matt, Nick, and possibly Brandon.
Oh, they need to get Sammy to do their editing. Sammy is fucking awesome at editing, as we saw him being the Inner Circle, actually, many moons ago.
Yes, so yeah, the Taz thing, that was a bit bizarre. The Future Seeing Man has its moments for a meta joke, but I'm just still trying to work out who it is.
Yeah, I've got no clue. Ruth thought he was Kaz originally, but it's not, obviously.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Kaz is the Vince McMahon hands.
Yes.
I hope you know the sketch.
Yes, that's. I think that's Kaz and Chris Daniels.
Yeah, I believe it is. It's Dad Team. Right, I'll carry on after criticising Taz. I'm still not 100% sold on the Luchasaurus stuff. It was nice to see Ultimate Panda, though. I'm not quite feeling the private party thing either, but this could just be me. Each to their own.
I'm finding the private party one a little bit difficult to follow. I'm hoping it's going to lead to something, and then I'm going to I have a feeling we're going to say this should have been on Dynamite at the end of it.
Yeah,
I have
possibly.
a feeling that's the payoff. The payoff, though, we are going to be saying, oh, this should have been on Dynamite.
At least we can hope for that. As long as it goes somewhere, I'll be happy. Just because of the time, I'm a bit like, We ended with Hangman, and I think we all know how much I love Hangman, and I love his Dynamite intro with him doing completely pedestrian things whilst it has fireworks over it. I enjoyed the terrible meta jokes of him making sourdough and it being sliced and him not actually doing anything. It wasn't hilarious, but it was a nice round out at the end. So yeah, I had a good BTE. I don't think it's a necessary one. I don't think it's had. I think it's definitely a fall down, but from the massive amounts of flair we've had for the rest of the month. But it's gonna be, we've had.
I had it down as a good. I did notice that Cody. Well, I didn't notice. To be fair, the Raptor noticed Cody's coffee mug. I think it was Cody's. Somebody had a coffee mug, and on the coffee mug it said FTR. More on that later. I want to give a special shout out this week, and I don't know if you've watched it. Now, we shouted this guy out, I believe, last week. You have to go and watch Sammy's vlog from this past week.
Oh, God, the match.
Because he has a good match with a broom and a mop. And it is, I don't want to give any more than that away. It is a thing of beauty. It is funny. It is well done. It is well wrestled. It's heading up to an A-rank match.
You can tell Sammy's been around the Japanese wrestlers too long. They've infected him.
Yeah, so special shout out. So I wouldn't say BTE is a must-watch this week, but I would say that Sammy's vlog is a must-watch this week, even if you don't normally. It's completely self-contained episode as well, relatively self-contained episode, so you don't need to have any idea of anything else. But yeah,
I mean, you should watch everything anyway. Like I said last week, I'm just saying.
Yeah, because he is. Yeah.
It's a young man in the industry, and he is actually a genuine young man in the industry, as opposed to a mid-30s young man in the industry, which is what most of them are.
Yeah, but just genuinely good. So moving on from that, from Being the Elite, we move on to this week's Dark, which had two matches: Ryan Piles versus number 10 of the Dark Order with Brodie Lee, and Captain Sean Dean versus Sammy Guevara. Oh, sorry, three matches. And Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford versus Colt Cabana. Overall, what did you think of Dark, and what rank did you give it?
I had a relatively good time in Dark. It didn't blow me away, but it was nice that Cody cared more. He seemed to be a bit more invested on the mic this week, which I liked. Piles.
Yeah, I don't know. Said unfortunate name. Why would you choose that name?
It's kind of nice that they've gone from kid who was picked up at school, whose name I forgot, who we've had a few times recently, to a sixth former, at least. The first match was fine. Brodie looked massive. Solid work, but meh. I gave it a D. It was I'm enjoying seeing the captain back versus Sean Dean.
It was versus the captain Sean Dean.
Yeah, I'm
versus Sammy
enjoying him. He's been back a few times for squashes now, so I've given him a name. Cody cared as well. The captain's solid. I think Sammy could have given him a couple more two counts. But yeah, it was just solid. Nice little comeback sequence from the captain at the end. We all knew Sammy was going to win. But yeah, I had a good time. It was a fine match. It was definitely better from the match before. And obviously Kip versus Colt. I love both of these people. Kip's really good at any rope run sequences. Like, he properly, if you watch him, he does the one-legged jump over people when they're bouncing off the ropes. It's fucking fluid. He is smooth as fuck. Colt is obviously hilarious with his walking away counters and stuff. And he comes across as a real tactician. We had a little bit of drama with the Penelope playing about the bit of, back and forth. We had the cheat for the heel win. Yeah, for me, it was either like a high C or a B-ish. It was definitely the best one of the night. And I'd say you can watch this week's Dark, and it was good, but I don't think you're really missing anything if you miss it. And if you've only got... If for some reason you can't afford the half hour and you can only watch one match, watch the Kip and Colt one. But otherwise, I didn't feel like my half hour was wasted, and it ended on a high note.
So
or on that later.
Yeah, so a C for this week's Dark.
Yeah, let's go with a C. Now, as I've gone through it again, I think it was mostly solid and rides up at the end. So C, yeah, C for the Dark.
So we move on from Dark to this week's Dynamite. And Dynamite opens with a recap of the two TNT tournament semi-finals. We have commentary, we have JR, Schiavone, and Excalibur, and the match opens with Joey Janela versus Cody, and Cody wins with the Crossroads. What did you think of the intro, the match, and what score did you give the match?
My first comment of the night is generic new metal. We had a solid recap. It was fine. And, generic new metal. If it reminds me of a 1990s wrestling computer game, I'm actually okay with it. I'll just criticize it because, a 90s and new metal is what wrestling sounds like. The production value didn't start well, did it? With JR's mic not being on. Probably for the best, let's be honest.
Yes.
But, it's the first time back, teething difficulties getting people in. I just kind of wanted to rip on the production at the start before I get into the match. All right, let's have a look what I actually wrote. Joey versus Cody. Joey Janela is a man who I wasn't sold on when he first came out to AEW. I'd seen a lot of his ludicrous deathmatch stuff and seen him being shit-talked. And after his matches with Omega and such like that, actually completely changed. Like, I don't get his character, but I don't mind seeing him in the ring. I actually quite enjoy a Joey match. And he busted out a back rake, which is my absolute favourite move in all of wrestling. Mostly it was good, all was smooth. We got to see Rage Cody, and I'm enjoying Rage Cody and his obvious falling into heel. We had a bit of a weak point. There was a terrible waist lock Joey did where he put his legs around him, and Cody was just sat there with his arms free and everything, just sort of punching his legs. And I was like, at first I thought Cody had Joey in like a leg lock, but he didn't. Joey had him in a squeezy thing, and it just didn't look good for me. That's the weakest point of the match in my mind. He had a bit of a weird hop up too, but Janela's probably a little bit rusty. Let's be honest. He's been furloughed for God. How long's it been now?
He's been a good 4 or 5 weeks at least, I think.
Yeah, so you've got to let him go at the end. It picked up at the end. Some nice big moves. Crossroads actually won. I gave it a C. Like, it didn't quite cross that line into me being really invested. Like, there was still a bit of slowness and uncomfortableness, but it was a good match. I'd like to reiterate that a C is not a bad match. C is what a wrestling match should be. It just didn't cross into any level of whoa or particularly caring. But yeah, C match. It was solid. There was a few weaknesses, a few bits where they weren't so smooth together. But there is a reason Cody is known as the 3-star general.
Yeah. So then we had a Nyla Rose promo. I think I'm just going to pull these both into one thing.
Yeah,
So we had a Nyla Rose promo because it was very short, and then we had Kenzie Page versus Nyla Rose, and Nyla wins with the Beast Bomb. What did you think of the promo? Was it worth a rank? And what did you think of the match? And what rank did you give it?
I didn't rank the recap. I get it was a fine recap. You know, it showed us everything we need to be. All I could think all the way through was, God, that belt is small. It's like a wristwatch. And then we're on to Nyla versus an 18-year-old. So I've currently judged two men by describing them as a kid going from school and a sixth former now. This last, fair play to her age. But she looked so young. She had that, and I mean this in a hopefully non-sexist way to any of our female listeners. She had that edge of roundness before you've fully matured into woman from teenager, if that makes sense. So I felt a little bit bad for her. She did really well. Like, you know, she ate a lot of shit very quickly. She got a bit of a counter offensive in for a couple of blows. It was nice to see the heel head rise, even if we do see it again later. It was a solid squash match. I hope we see more of that last. She's going to go far if she can do a mainstream match at that age, you know, already. Apparently she's a youngest ever contender.
Ah.
She put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'd have pimped her Twitter, but not that much on it yet.
No, that's fair. So following that, we had an MJF promo. What did you think of the promo? And what score did you give it, if it deserved one?
It got slightly ruined again when you pointed out to me that he's, I believe the Raptor pointed out to me that he's now one of the vampire brides of Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, MJF didn't cast a shadow in this.
He didn't. It was a really nice, solid, classic heel promo. It's what MJF excels at. The chair swap to a throne was great. It was just really good MJF being MJF. I think it's harder for MJF to get higher ranks now because I expect a little bit more of him. Yeah, no, it was a really good heel promo. I'm coming back. I enjoyed the throne swap. I don't know why they had the green screen background Zoom meeting thing. I think it could have been done just as well actually being in a place. Just saying. But yeah, it was a good promo.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit weird. Following that, we had a Sean Spears promo all about Cody. What did you think of the promo, and did it deserve a rank?
I really enjoyed this promo, obviously, with my shameful love of Sean Spears. It was strong heel work. It was concise. It adds to... remember Everybody Hates Chris, the TV series?
Yeah.
I've started saying Everybody Hates Cody now, because that's basically the thing. I enjoyed it as a nice piece of shit talking. I gave it a C. It wasn't really a promo as such because he wasn't challenging anyone. It was literally like Sean Spears got a camera to shit talk Cody for a bit and wandered off. And I really enjoyed that. So yeah, it was solid as what it is. It didn't really tie into anything or go anywhere exceptional, but it was a nice little piece of media that got a really cool point across mid-episode. For me, it was really good. I give it a C because, you know, it didn't really fit in anywhere. But if it goes somewhere else, may shoot up the ranks.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So following that, we had MJF and Sean Spears in an interview together.
Oh, I've not particularly commented on this. I just enjoyed those two. I think those two are a great team because we saw it at the start before the tapings where it was them fucking about. We've had several scenes of them at ringside, haven't we? And I think they're really good. I think they make an... I don't want to see them as a tag team or a faction. I could possibly see them as a faction, each leading their own thing and being shitty friends. I'm really enjoying the entertainment of Shitty Friends Club, basically.
That's interesting. We will come back to that later because I see MJF as being Sean Spears' tag partner. We will come back to that. We will come back to that later. And if that might be a bit of a hint for you about something coming up.
Yeah, I got you.
So following that, we had Frankie Kazarian versus Mox. Mox wins with the paradigm shift. Now, I'm going to stop it there, and we'll come back to what happened afterwards, because I think it's a self-contained thing. What did you think of the match, and what score did you give the match up until the end?
I've got a lot of notes on this one, which, as we know, is either a good thing or a bad thing. And this was Kaz's first singles match, I believe. At least we saw it should be. Slow start. It's always a slow start with Mox. We got a build up for a bit, and then it went into a headlock. Zero momentum to Mox matches. There's just Mox not only doesn't do moves, he stops other people from doing moves. I normally rave about Kaz. I love him. I love his middle leg bounce, leg drop. I love his over the rope cutter. I love everything Kaz does. And then he fought Mox, and I was like, oh god. We got an actual sequence, and there was a bit of pace, and then it instantly went outside the ring and slowed down, and it instantly went into a break. I mean, Americans love him, and I know for some reason he's really popular in the strikey, fighty style scene. But I just want a new champion now. I don't. The crowd was more excited than the match deserved. I'm just not getting it. Then, weirdly, it picked up near the end when Kaz actually got to do some stuff. Kaz is so much more fun than Mox. There was a weird moment where Kaz had Mox in a submission and Mox did some kicks, and they were some of the weakest looking sad kicks I've ever seen, which is meant to be from Hardcore Strike Man. Then my notes started to peter out because the end sequence actually had a bit of a good backwards and forwards, and actually had moves and some slams. Once Kaz was allowed to actually have a wrestling match and not Mox punches people and then does a paradigm shift, it actually got better. I did criticize Moxley for having a better health bar than Pentagon, and as much as I love Pentagon, his health bar is often takes me out of the match, and so does Moxley's. The end sequence picked it back up, and the end sequence was really good, and we actually had some nice motion and some nice back and forth, and it could have been a B if the whole match had been like those last few minutes. It could have been a B, but 50% of the match was dull as shit. So I've got to kind of keep it as from a neutral perspective, a C. For me, I was like, this is boring. Then a real match busted out. But I've got to objectively look at this. I've got to take out the fact that I think Mox is not a good champion and Kaz is more entertaining than him. So I think it's an overall C. It could have been better. It could have been worse, but it wasn't anything special. What about? Do you agree?
I looked at my phone a lot, and I like Mox. I was a big fan of The Shield and Dean Ambrose, and I'm a big fan of Mox. I like his like we said, the promo we got last week when it went back to early Mox.
Yeah, it was wicked.
Mox when he came out, when Jericho was doing his beatdown, and Mox came out, and the crowd went nuts, and Mox can get that pop. I think he's struggled with having Hager, who I don't think was a good opponent for him. I don't think that's helped him. I'm hoping he's about to get an opponent that we can get, but I'm not entirely sure that we've got enough heat on the guy because of not having a crowd yet. So I'll move on to what happened next. The Dark Order run in, attack Mox. SCU run in to make the save, but are beaten down as well. I foresee a 8-man tag match. Brodie Lee comes in, cuts a promo, and challenges for the AEW Championship. Mox then accepts in a classic Mox way. Brodie attacks again and leaves with the belt. What did you think of the whole after match?
I got a bit confused at the start. I am enjoying the Dark Order in shirts and trousers with the mask. One, luchador mask and shirt is the most powerful build known to man. And two, it actually makes them... They've got a bit more of a threatening aura than when they first came out as Evil Uno's Gimps. Yeah, it was fine. Bit long. I think it could have been concise down. I enjoyed Mox's comeback. I think it's a bit early. There's no way is Brodie going to beat Moxley in a title match this early. Surely. Brodie has only realistically fought Jobbers and Marco. And Mox is only just back into defending his belt, realistically. So, unless they completely blow my mind and give Brodie an early win, which is TNAing it and taking the belt from one WWE guy to an ex-WWE guy, which I know I say I shouldn't question because of them being actors. You wouldn't get mad at a Disney actor being in a Paramount film. But on the other hand, there's a lot of AEW's guys who were Japan/AEW's based who could probably use that push. So presumably Mox is just going to win. So it's too early. You're either going to cut off the threat of Brodie or you're just going to cut off the threat of Brodie. They're not taking the belt off Mox, let's be honest. And if they do, it's gone from one WWE guy to another WWE guy. And that's where I'm going to start to get, concerned.
I agree. I think it's too early for Brodie. I think he needed to feud with SCU first to start creating. I think he needed to destroy Chris Daniels.
Yeah,
we know he's going to have a good match with, because we know Chris Daniels can have a good match with a broom.
So good.
And I then think that the Dark Order, I know they had that problem where the Dark Order went after the Elite before Christmas and it got slammed, and they did the thing where they've reacted to fan opinion. But I think that a new built-up Dark Order with Brodie Lee and the Dark Order going against the Young Bucks would have been a better option as well.
You could have potentially had 10 challenge, because that new 10 man is massive. He is Mil Muerte shaped. He is.
Yeah. So
I don't need to beat you. I run a business. Fight my big man.
Yes,
nothing would have been lost.
And I think you could have played more on that Vince McMahon parody that you're doing by having him being the controlling figure, just causing Mox trouble. I don't think Brodie should have come out yet. Maybe they were worried that if they just sent the Dark Order out, that it would feel like a repeat of what had happened. As I say, I think it was December. But I think if you'd have had all the Dark Order go out and Brodie in the background as the puppet master,
it would have been better.
Getting involved, that would have thrown a bit of interest. I liked Mox's, well, you just had to act.
That was cool.
That's proper Mox. That's the Mox we want.
Exactly.
Takes the beat down, gets up, shakes himself off and goes, well, you just had to ask. I'll fight anyone. I've said that. On the whole, I'm going to say...
Solid, too long, could have been handled better. It got its point across, but
I think it was a high D, low C.
Yeah, I think that's about where I am, if I'm honest. It's not quite had all of the right ingredients. It was just a badly made cake.
Yes. So after
I'm cutting you off now. I'm hoping that we get an Evil Uno turn on the Dark Order. I think that when he comes back, if he has been forgotten / replaced with 10 unsuccessful members, because let's be honest, Dark Order's overall victory streak wasn't that great. And the fact I know Evil Uno and Stu Grayson used to be basically a Mario Brothers parody team called the Super Smash Brothers. I am hoping for original Dark Order has a face turn because of the new Dark Order. Just getting that out there whilst we're on a Dark Order-y moment.
Yeah, no, I think it's built up. So after that, we had a Brandy Rhodes promo. What do you think of the promo? Did it deserve a score?
I only made one note on it because it was solid. Brandy knows production. Dislike the original Nightmare Collective stuff. Brandy's mic work and stuff is really working with me. But there was one line which was, "Don't fuck with people you don't know." And that properly made me laugh. And I was like, that is such a good little line. I gave it a C. It was solid. It was good. I enjoy Brandy.
I think I might be slightly biased because I really like Brandy as a promo as well. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good promo. But after we finished watching it, myself and the Raptor did turn to each other and sort of go, well, that was a good promo, but it's not surprising it was a Brandy promo.
Yeah, exactly. We need her in some matches. I need to see the bionic shoulder busted out again, which we remembered after she did the shoulder ram on Penelope Ford a couple of weeks ago, because she's got the metal surgery shoulder, which I always love as a finisher excuse. If you've got a metal piece of your body and that's your finisher, I'm convinced.
Yeah, shades of the old Lex Luger.
Yeah, exactly.
So after that, we had Cutie Marshall with Brandy Rhodes versus Lance Archer. Lance Archer wins with the claw. I'm not going to go into the after bit yet. Again, we'll do what we did last time. What did you think of the match? What score did you give the match?
Well, my first thing was, how far can Lance Archer throw Cutie Marshall? Because obviously this is probably the biggest man Lance Archer has fought thus far. And then there's a little addendum later of about 8 feet, so pretty far. Yeah, Archer reads as a beast. He decked an extra, which I will always pop for. Jake looked awesome at the side of the ring, laughing and not really giving advice. Gave a couple of notes, but was mostly just sort of there. There were a couple of weak no sells from Archer, which I would always criticize. But most of them were the first set he took, he just sort of completely no-sold them, and I hate that. The second ones he took did the impact and then laughed along and such like, which is what I think why I'm enjoying Lance more than Brodie. We see Lance eat some offensive, and we know Cutie's real good. Lance eats some offensive and laughs it off as opposed to just not taking everything. We always compliment Cutie, he's real good. We once again got the heel head raise. Ow. Which always makes your heels look better. Arguably, it worked better in this than the Nyla match just because the match went on a bit more and he actually did a bit more with it afterwards. Yeah, it was a good, solid match. I gave it a B. I had a good time. It wasn't too squashy because we actually got a match because Lance isn't just delivered for 5 minutes and stamp on people. Yeah, it was a solid, good match. I enjoyed it.
So following this, Britt attacks Brandy, throws Brandy into the ring. Jake then brings a snake into the ring, shades of the old. What did you think of the after match beatdown, and did you think it deserved a score?
Well, I'm gonna cover some of this a bit later, shockingly. I've got
Let's just one thing on, there was the Jake crawling over Brandy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go to. My first note was this is a bit weird, and I was very against it because of obviously the ideals of ideas of sexual assault and such are terrible, and these are not things we should be encouraging. And seeing an old wrestler do it in the incredibly progressive AEW threw me, and I did not like it, and I was like, what the fuck are they doing? Then I had to take a step back and go, Matthew Strange, you watch these shows like they're TV shows. People did get upset about X scenes in Game of Thrones and such like, or don't watch a lot of TV. I didn't watch Game of Thrones. Essentially, sexual assault is a thing you can use, the suggestion of sexual assault is a thing you can use in television series and films. It is used all the time in television and films. So I have to accept it that this is a TV show. As much as we view wrestling in this objective, smarky way a lot of the time, you have to remember it's a TV show. So as long as a comeuppance comes from this, or he is consistently shown as it being bad until there's a comeuppance, it will make me uncomfortable. But me being uncomfortable in written media is not a problem. As long as we don't get a Triple H Booker T win situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a character in Lucha Underground called Marty the Moth that played very much with this, though Marty was really good, and he always made me feel uncomfortable. But
he always ate shit in the end.
The Raptor liked him, and she didn't. She found this more uncomfortable than Marty, but I think Marty was just being maybe younger and actually.
He was whacked up to a creepy, like obsessed stalker state.
He was more creepy. I did find it quite uncomfortable. I did think, again, like yourself, and probably after a conversation with you, I believe, on our chat. I still am not sure it was required. I think that it could have been better with Jake stone colding it and lying to the side and getting too close into her face.
Yeah, it hasn't added anything.
Yeah, it would have still made me uncomfortable if he just got right in her face. This is a bit like when
he was really on top of her. He was like properly on top of her. He could have come in sideways. He could have done all manner of things.
I'm guessing Britt was fine with it. She knew what was coming. So,
as I said, as I've discussed with you and some other people, personally, and there's some issues here I'll be addressing later. I think it would have been better if they dragged her off and thrown her in a room full of snakes or something, which takes away a lot of the issues. And when you've got this production value, we're not afraid to do cut sequences, attitude, you can do that. Lance just fucking throws her over his shoulder. They walk out to a back room. We see her locked in a room with a bunch of snakes. She can look scared. Nobody's got threat of rape. And no snakes are being hurt, you know?
Yeah. So moving on from that, we had a very short Darby Allin promo with Taz. What did you think of this very short promo? Did you give it a score?
I didn't bother scoring it. I think it's interesting. And I think if you tie Darby in with learning from Taz, so he gets a new... I think we've got an interesting possible arc from that. I think Taz is somebody who could actually give a nice counter side to Darby. I don't want him as a manager, but if you show Taz teaching him a few more brutal things that we don't expect from AEW's rolliest man, I think it's got potential.
They seem to be into this legends as mentors idea rather
It's a lot
than legends as managers, which I quite like.
Yeah, exactly. I prefer that, and there's a whole lot less risk of not so much with Taz because he's not that old, and I'm no doubt Taz can probably still pull off a few moves.
No, Taz cannot wrestle.
Okay, not. I don't know why.
This is why in the ECW when they brought ECW back, he took Kurt Angle down with Tazmission before Kurt got to the ring or anything else. Taz is on the cannot really wrestle anymore, I believe. He did do some stuff in Impact, but I don't think he actually wrestled in Impact. I think he was the commentator guy for the Aces and Eights when he joined them. That's
even better if I'm honest. I hate anything of seeing a wrestler who can't wrestle anymore wrestle because, the pop value.
I hadn't thought of it, but the idea of Taz in that, and again, to go back to Lucha Underground, in the Vampiro, so exactly. Taz and Darby in the Vampiro Pentagon role. I know Vampiro did wrestle and could still do a hardcore match, and did one with Pentagon, but in that sort of having him as I don't want to say a cheerleader, but like his cheerleader, but for a babyface, much more interesting. Darby's not a bad promo though, so it's another one of those ones where I'm not sure, but he's a very quiet promo. So having somebody loud and bombastic like Taz will, I think, be a nice. I don't want to say a chalk and cheese because that's bad, but you know what I mean. A nice.
You can hype him up in
a sweet and a sour.
Yeah, I got you. No, I'm down with that.
So we moved on from there, and we moved on to.
Not going on to the main event yet, mate. We've got my prediction from halfway through where I went Pineapple Peter and Jericho are going to have a feud. And I was like, there's no way Jericho has built this man up for this long without that. It was like Jericho versus a mystery opponent. I was like, he's fighting Shug D. He has to be fighting Shug D. And it's on. I'm really excited. Jericho has basically taken a side of the ring enhancement talent and is now having a match with him. Jericho, Saint of Wrestling, does it again. I just need to shout that out. The man is wonderful, and he is doing wonderful things for the wrestling industry.
So we had Jericho and Sammy Guevara, otherwise known as Le Sex Gods. Yeah, with Jake Hager versus Kenny Omega and Broken Matt Hardy in a street fight. There is a lot goes on in this, so I'm going to my quick recap as usual. The Sex Gods win after Jericho hits Omega with the Judas effect. That does not give any account of what went on. What did you think of this match? What was your score? I have a feeling I know what it was going to be. Over to you, and we'll discuss this as we go along. I think there's a lot to break down in this.
There's so much. I did not expect this match to go full DDT. DDT being a Japanese promotion known for more out there matches. For those of you listening who haven't seen it, it's worth a look up. My notes start really normally. It's like, Hardy's in light armor with his little leather patch because he's coming as this era Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy's fucking blackout position powerbomb things, baller. I quite like the fact they were all in jeans. You could see the knees were cut though, so they could bend their legs. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is nice. Ken is excited to be back. Then Matt got dragged out the back and didn't come back for a while until he came back in old Matt Hardy kit.
Came in as, I think it was version 1 Matt Hardy.
Yeah. There was a really nice pacing to weapons as well. Weapons weren't in for like the first 5-10 minutes, and then the bats came in, which I like. When I essentially dressed up hardcore match just starts out crazy, you lose the impact of the weapons, but when they came out, I was like, oh, that's cool. Nice, solid, rotation of moments. Then Hager did an interference. I'd forgotten he was there too. The pacing just really nice. And then it went out the back, and it went past the Corona adverts, and I laughed. I was like, oh, is that okay?
Yeah, I spotted that. Yeah, Corona beer signs. It was a bit, ooh.
We had the wrestling bins. I always love wrestling bins because wrestling chairs are actually real chairs, but wrestling bins are definitely not real bins. Yeah, and then Matt went into the ice machine, and then it just.
I've got to give credit here because the Raptor called it when he went into the ice machine.
Like Sammy slamming Omega into the cash machine and getting money out of it. That made me laugh. The trolley getting rolled into him. Just every piece of environment and props were used. This is, once again, to criticize a WrestleMania match that I've criticized several times. This is what a match with a long duration where you go outside the arena can be. They used fucking everything. Carts, trolleys, cash machines, and then Matt Hardy gets out of an ice machine in Damascus gear, gets into a golf cart,
which he did have trouble starting.
He did have trouble starting, and then we had the chase scene. Possibly one of the greatest things I've seen in wrestling. I put it slightly behind Kota Ibushi running people over with a go-kart, if I'm honest. But once again, Kota Ibushi, Kenny's friend, did lots and lots of this sort of stuff in DDT together. The use of the window cleanie, put banner, but the Intolinator, I don't know what those cart things are called, would probably be the only criticism I had, just because Kenny took a bit of time setting up his moonsault, and there was a bit of a wobbly dance at the bottom, which took a while. That was probably my only flaw in the match, from my perspective. I was about how happy Sammy was. Sammy basically got the first section started just so he could take a go through a table from a Hardy. That's been like a life goal of his since he was a kid, and I think we can all kind of appreciate that. Yeah, it was fabulous. It was a fabulous DDT match, and I would put it as an A-ranked DDT match, but I'm going to give it an S rank for AEW because 1, we've never seen anything like it. 2, they used everything. 3, all people have ever said is, oh, you'll never be able to use that DDT Japanese style in the mainstream America. People won't get it. And I think the internet itself, with its love and sharing of memes and videos of it, have proved that the mainstream wrestling audience is more than prepared for a DDT style match. I wouldn't want it every episode in the same way that I wouldn't have wanted the WWE cinematic universe in every episode, but I think that was beautiful, and it completely made me forget about a lot of the criticisms I had of the previous scene.
Yes, it was definitely the sorbet palate cleanser.
Yes.
And it was a good sorbet.
I'm pretty sure Sammy caught more of that golf cart than he wanted to as well.
Yes.
Yes. I watched him bounce off and I rewound it a bit and I was like, I don't think he hit arm there. I'm pretty sure he just hit golf carts.
So, overall, Dynamite score for this week?
I think we're on another B ranking overall, as much as I'd like to give it a higher rank for the final beautiful match, we had some good wrestling. We had a couple of bad squash matches. We had a good match followed by a controversial moment, shall we say. We've got the Dark Order that needs to go somewhere, but we ended on such a phenomenal high. I think it's worth a B. And if you don't have enough time to watch the whole episode, just watch that match. It was beautiful. It was art. Yeah, a B, I think. I think it was a bit of an up and down, this one. Not as stable as some of the other ones we've had recently.
Yeah, finding their feet again with going back live. So that's our review of the week of AEW. If you want to give us your opinions on this week, we can be contacted. We are wrestleopinionated@gmail.com. We are WrestleOP1 on Twitter, and we are WrestleOP on Facebook. Please feel free to send us things to get annoyed about and to be angry about. Speaking of which, it is time for our rant of the week. Are you ready, Mr. Strange?
Oh, I am armed. I'm ready.
Okay. So, rant of the week, Mr. Strange.
So, this is a thing which I actually get personally quite angry about. This isn't an inspired anger. This is one where, as soon as I saw it this week, I wrote it down and went, fuck this, and properly lost my shit. We've seen animals used 3 times on AEW now, and it's gone wrong twice. That's a 66 2/3% chance of it just going to shit, which is Steiner's chance of beating Samoa Joe at Sacrifice. The first time, do we all remember this? Pharaoh came out to the ring with the Nightmare family and got scared by the pyros. The mortars went off, and then afterwards, Brandy went on the internet and she was like, oh, the mortars weren't meant to go off. And, you know, that guy has been fucking sent off straight away or whatever. So a dog got scared. They could have let it turn around, taken away. But no, he had to be walked out to the ring, and he was obviously struggling. And then Brandy says they fired the staff member, which means people are then going, oh, well, you shouldn't fire the staff member. You brought your dog. Nobody looked good for it. Nobody looked good. And it's meant to, I believe it's Cody's like comforted dog as well, or his stress dog or something. You know, I don't know the correct terms. I'm very sorry if you actually have a care dog. I know they've got very specific training. I don't get it, but it shouldn't have been taken out to the ring. People keep their dogs inside when people are having fireworks 4 houses down on bonfire night. Bring it out to Cody 3 entrances fucking display. It was shit. The dog was scared. Don't scare animals. The second time was Hangman's horse. Hangman's horse didn't go wrong. Horses, pretty trainable. We've been riding them into battle for years. It's pretty hard to scare a horse. But if it had been spooked, can kill a man quite easily. But, you know, we can let that one pass. That's the 33 1/3. Samoa chances, Joe's chance of winning. We can let that one go. Did it add anything? We know Hangman's cowboy themed. He rode in on a horse, stopped there, got off. Didn't add anything to his entrance. You can just do it without. And this week, the snakes. Now, snakes are pretty fucking chill. It's pretty hard to wind up a snake. I discussed this with the Raptor as well. Actually, she was a bit more upset with me. Snakes can be held, swung about, put down. They're pretty docile. Not a lot will bother a snake. And then Jake trod on its tail at the end. And, you know, he didn't mean to. But on the other hand, let's look at Jake's history of snakes. Now, Jake the Snake has been through a lot of problems. He's been through abuse, drugs, etc. And he has come out a better person. But I also know that Jake the Snake wasn't exactly good to his snakes in the 70s through 90s. And as much as I would appreciate him with a cut sequence with snakes about him, he is Jake the Snake. I personally don't need to know that Jake the Snake is handling snakes himself, even though you can carry them about and swing them about. But for snakes specifically, you can't do that with a horse or a dog, obviously. Yeah, I don't particularly need to see this man using his old gimmicks, having killed several snakes in the past, if I'm completely honest with you. And more power to him on his road to redemption. Stay the fuck away from snakes. We don't need these ages anymore. We don't live in a circus animal age. They are not sold on cheap theatrics based around animals anymore. Most people know the constrictors aren't that dangerous. Most people know snakes aren't dangerous. Back in the day, bring a horse out. Yeah, oh fuck, it's terrifying. Maybe not a horse, but the snakes and shit. We used to watch black and white films where there'd be a blown up fucking iguana in black and white next to all these people, and people would be terrified because they didn't know what a fucking iguana was. Don't get me wrong, iguanas are scary. I own one. I could bite off one of my fingers, but it's not exactly a terrifying animal. I'd be more scared if somebody brought an iguana out to the ring and put it on Brandy than a constrictor, if I'm honest, because I know that fucker's going to take off skin and the constrictor's just going to leave. But we're beyond the age of cheap carny tricks. We're beyond the age of slinging animals about them needing to be there to give that level of expectation. People don't have that anymore, especially when you've got the production budget to do animals well. You want to show Hangman riding a horse? Apparently he can ride a horse. He had one in his childhood. Give us a promo section. You want to show Jake terrifying Brandy with snakes? Have him drag her off and put her in a back room. They can be everywhere. She can scream. There's no risk of an old man treading on a snake's tail. And I've looked up fucking snake medicine since then. I've honestly gone up to make sure that snake's all right. And apparently they're super robust, and it having a bit of a pinch on its tail isn't going to be a problem. It isn't going to drop it, The snake will be fine. It was just hurt, which it shouldn't have been. That we don't need to put these risks in. An animal being fine isn't an excuse for an animal being in pain. A man having a cowboy theme isn't an excuse for him to come down on a horse. You owning a dog isn't an excuse to put it near fireworks. Look, I love you, AEW. I love animals, and I'm not entirely against animals being used in media. It's done all the time. It's done in film. It's done in television. There's just a way to do it properly and a way which isn't doing it properly. And currently, it's like animals are just being added for a little bit of highlighting. Fuck it, he could have just had the snake round his shoulders. And he'd have been fine.
I just to interject, he could have done just the snake hissing in her, had it around his arm and hissing in her face. Again, that closeness, that uncomfortable, and I think that would have been...
yeah, exactly. There's a million ways.
If you really wanted to do, you really had to do the Jake the Snake moment. Just have it. And we know a snake will go and hiss and smell at the face. And the worst thing that could have possibly happened is Brandy could have giggled because it tickled.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know Raptor was particularly upset about the fake throw, but I've looked up. I've spent a reasonable amount of the last few days reading on snake handling. Would you believe it? And they're okay being swayed about because they're so slow and docile. It's just really jolting and being trod on, I suppose, that upsets them. But yeah, no, that's me kind of ranted out. There's no hilarious, poignant ending to this because I've more sort of petered out of exhaustion and being able to scream a final point. Just don't fuck with animals.
Yeah, I believe that the best sign-off we can give to this is the way we described it when we were doing the show meeting, which is animals no.
Yeah, animals no. Just there's a way and a means and a correct care and production way of dealing with animals. And don't get me wrong, animals are often used in films in incorrect ways, but at least in a controlled area where they've got their thing and everything's going on, it's fine.
Rant over?
Yeah, that was not controlled. Stop fucking about with animals. Use your budget. Do backscene stuff with safety. You've got it. We've seen it done. If Cody can have a fucking armchair, maybe I do have a rant at the end in me. If Cody can have a fucking cut sequence of him overseeing like a fucking supervillain from his gamer chair on his Batman lab last week, we can just have some snakes back scene where people are taken. Rant over. Stop fucking with animals.
So hopefully now we can move on to something that's a little bit more lighthearted and interesting. This is our weekly bit where we discuss or come up with a topic that we want to chat about or talk about or have a little bit of a competition about. And we struggled a little bit this week to come up with something new and interesting. I think we've fired a lot of our good cannons already. And then we suddenly thought, well, you know what? Quite like the idea. We'd quite like to fantasy book the Revolt, or Revival, as they were known in WWE, into AEW. I know we've done a couple of these kind of fantasy booking people in. We
Seems to be
quite
our most
enjoy.
popular.
We quite enjoy doing it. Hopefully, other people are enjoying listening to it. And this one seems pretty relevant. I think we can state, even though Cody has said, we're not just going to take anyone from WWE, that we know that the Revival were headed to AEW the second they could get out of their WWE contracts. It is widely considered, and the opinion is very much that AEW started, the Revival went, right, can we have out of our contracts, please? And WWE went, no, there's another company. No, you can't go there. We're going to book you as comedy ninja clowns or something.
I've done some research this week that I didn't know about, and yeah, amazing. Carry on. Sorry, I just
So we're going to do our fantasy booking the Revolt into AEW. I'm going to let you start, Mr. Strange, because I want to see how if there's anything I need to steal from yours. That seems to be the theme.
And I've just swallowed my water wrong before speaking. Would you believe it? Hold on.
And just so you know, your mic cut out slightly in your rant. I think we just had some karma from Taz.
If you've listened to all that and it hasn't recorded, assume I was shouting about not stepping on snakes.
Yeah, it didn't cut out terribly, but we did have a jolty moment, and it did make me think that
Taz,
yeah,
he's got me.
Yeah.
So on booking the Revolt, we're gonna have a similar. I'm not going to say issue, a similar connection to when we did Rusev. That I really don't know these guys very well, and you do. So we've got my initial notes of what I know. Fists, not flips. They're Southern. They can cut a promo, which surprised Vince. And they've instantly got a feud with the Bucks. Those are like my 4 facts I worked off. First, I was thinking about bringing them in with EC3 and Rockstar Spud because they've been doing their stuff together. But I honestly think EC3 would work better with MJF, and Spud can be anywhere in AEW. He knows all the high spots guys. He's incredibly charismatic and entertaining for a Brummie. So I've left them aside. They don't need a belt in my mind. They don't need to come in and go for a belt. They need to come in and beat people. That should be their thing. They need to beat the Bucks. The Bucks that they talked about best team in the world, and these guys are the other talked about best team in the world, from what I understand. We don't need to TNA this and bring them straight in for a belt. They can beat Kenny and Hangman, but there doesn't necessarily need to be a belt on the a title on the line. That's the word I was looking for it. In fact, I think it could be better if they beat Kenny and Hangman. Sort of doing a Santana and Ortiz when they first came in. They need to come in and go against the best. They need to fight Penta and Phoenix, the best in Mexico, and possibly beat them. They need to beat the 2 tag team champions, who currently I think will have a split up breakdown anyway. And if they do win, and they slowly fight their way through, fight people the Bucks have beaten, and then obviously the end of this storyline arc is them fighting and possibly beating the Bucks. If they go for a belt or whatever in the end, that you need to sell off the pop of where they are and where they're coming and going. But that was basically all I really had, because I don't know them that much. But I thought a campaign of winning to fight people who are the best in their sort of area and take down some of the flippy people would probably be the best direction for them. But once again, on like similar to a Rusev thing, you know this better, and I think you're going to have the definite edge on selling these characters.
So I'm very much so we're both very much on the same page here.
Cool.
The belt is the end goal.
Okay.
The belt is the end goal because you, as a singles wrestler, should always want to be the AEW World Champion. You, as a tag team, should want to be the AEW Tag Team Champions, and you want to be the best. And there is a way you get there. Now, I don't want the Revolt to go for Hangman and Kenny. So The obvious route here is the Young Bucks are the ones that unseat Hangman and Kenny, and that continues on the Elite story. But I don't want that. I want that moved slightly aside because I want that to go to Kenny and Hangman. I want the storyline we talked about previously where Hangman and Kenny split, whichever one of them turns heel eventually leads to Hangman being the...
shit, we're building a meta universe now. I'm going to start working on my notes.
Yeah, so I want Hangman and Kenny to split, and I want them to split over losing, and I want them to go off to do their feud leading into Hangman becoming the guy to dethrone. Now, I know I had MJF down.
Yep.
This week has changed that slightly because the team I want to dethrone Hangman and Page first is I want MJF to be Sean Spears' tag team partner. I think the two of them work together. They are so funny together. And how douchey would they be unseating the two of the top singles guys? Because for everything, again, we know that Kenny's just happy in AEW. He got to be a tag team champion. He's never been that. He's very much seems to have gone in. The guys who are in, it's very noticeable that the four guys who are the executive producers, Cody has made it so he can't be the champion.
Yep.
And yes, we do need to possibly have that redemption arc eventually where he gets the chance. But officially,
is going to be the champion.
But yeah, there's something like that. But officially, Cody has gone, look, yes, I'm booking this. Look, I've done a story where I can't be the champion. Maybe in the future I can do a story where I get the right to be the champion, but that's something in the future.
Somebody's going to challenge him. Sorry.
Yeah, someone's going to challenge him. And Kenny is quite happy just doing the almost a Daniel Bryan thing, making other people look good, setting up. The Bucks haven't won the tag team champions. Now, I think their tag team belt, to give it the extra, it's had it on Kenny and Hangman, that's two top singles guys. It's been on SCU. It does eventually need to go on the Bucks. This is one of those. This is that weird reverse thing whereby they're possibly avoiding it because they are executive vice presidents and we're part of the booking team. We can't book ourselves to be the tag team champions. But the belt needs to go on you guys because you guys do legitimize the belt.
They were indie tag team, but when you think about indie tag teams, it was them for ages.
And
that's what AEW is based off.
And they have been the best tag team, the best. So we need MJF and Sean Spears to take the tag team belt off the other two, cause the problems, rub it in their face, fuel on the fire because it's MJF and Sean Spears, so they can easily throw a lot of fuel on Kenny and Hangman having problems. So they go off. That feud happens in the side, and MJF and Sean Spears can then feud with the babyface tag teams to eventually be toppled by the best in the world and get their comeuppance for being a couple of douchebag heels.
Yeah, fair.
During this time, we need the Revolt to debut. And we need them to debut and tease with the Young Bucks. But at the same time, we need a little bit of... The Revolt need to be almost a tweener heel team. Because the crowd are going to be behind them. Because they're going to come in.
Yeah.
These are the guys that were held back by Vince. So they need to actually... They're going to be tweener heels. What we are building to...
My favorite.
Yep. And what we are building to, and it's what they do best, what we are eventually building to is the modern day Rockers versus the Brainbusters, which was Arn and Tully versus Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
Thank you, old man wrestling.
Yeah, they are. And that is effectively what those two teams are. The Young Bucks played it up in the
barbershop thingy.
They did the barbershop thingy. Their outfit is very much the modern day Rockers. I would be very surprised if it wasn't the Rockers that were the team that it was the Rockers or the Hardys, and the Hardys were the modern day Rockers again. that high
Now
flying.
the Hardys are definitely the Hardys, whereas I can still see the Bucks being like the Rockers.
Yeah,
I get you.
But also whether the Hardys were an influence on the Young Bucks, So, and the Revolt are very much classic tag team, couple of hard men tag team wrestlers. So they need to come in, and somehow we need to make sure that they can't challenge the Bucks yet. They can't challenge for the well, that's quite easy because they don't have the wins yet.
You don't have the rankings.
You don't have the rankings. So while the Young Bucks are off the one side dealing with Dickhead and Dickhead, and I mean that term with much endearingness. Two of the greatest heels who are going to be playing Dickhead mates.
It's kind of nice that we fall on the opposite end of the do you like face or heel scale, if I'm honest.
But
you enjoy them, but you're a babyface man, whereas I fucking love shitty heels.
I like a babyface who can overcome. But so the Revolt come in, and their first targets are going to be Jurassic Express.
Oh, Stomp a Face group.
Yep. And they are going to Stomp a Face group. So that's their first bit, and that's the first babyface team they overcome. Then they will overcome possibly a heel team. Maybe somebody like the Dark Order. We've got the symbolism with the Vince McMahon character, but maybe they can go through, or maybe it can be a freshly babyface turned Uno and Grayson.
Oh, we're going to build our own meta universe. Just let's send off a document to AEW. By the way, we've rewritten your entire show.
But again, it needs to be babyface teams. So, they cannot. I don't think they can go anywhere near Death Triangle. And I've managed to keep my face straight saying that. I think that is the one team that needs to be. These two teams need to be kept apart.
So you don't. Sorry, I'm still trying not to laugh.
Yeah, you can't cross the streams there. That's our two badass heel teams.
Yeah.
Because it's all right for Dark Order to be a heel team that's slightly badass, but it's also all right for Dark Order guys to lose because that just builds into their own meta.
Yeah. It's all right because in this universe, Death Triangle will be off in TNT's massive explosion in the Trios Leagues. We'll be fine.
But yeah, so we've got to go through. So what your first thing you're building to is you're building up a bunch of wins for the Revolt. The important thing is when we get to Endgame, the Revolt are on X wins and 0 losses.
Oh, I got you. Cool.
That is important. So they are on X wins and 0 losses. There are other teams slightly ahead of them that they've got to build their way up through the rankings. So they're going to go through Jurassic Express. They're going to go through the Nightmare. Is it the Nightmare? Yeah, is it the Nightmare family?
It is the Nightmare family.
Yeah. Next after that is SCU.
Oh, that's your big first.
Well, that's your big first big name. Then I'm sorry to say this, but your boys are going to get absolutely destroyed. I'm afraid it's the Best Friends next.
Oh, that's okay. They don't mind eating shit.
But yeah, but I think those 3 teams: Jurassic Express, SCU, Best Friends. I note I've put Best Friends as being the top one, not SCU.
Thanks, man.
But those 3 teams are going to have great matches, but they are the guys that can put them over, and they can be destroyed in the right way.
They're all slightly different styles as well.
Yes, they've all got, but they're all slightly, but they're all slightly flippy guys. Slightly. Yeah. You're going to pitch the Revolt. The Revolt can do the flippy stuff, but you are really pitching forward the no flips, just fists. And I know that was their WE thing, but that's very much their thing. It's
they're grounded old school dudes.
Technical, old school punching. And so you've built up this arc. And then, of course, now they are the challengers for the Bucks. And we're finally going to get that match with the Young Bucks versus the Revolt. And the Young Bucks are going to eat shit for the Revolt. And the Revolt are now our tag team champions. And they can sit pretty at the top. During this time, Death Triangle have been doing their bit and have finally, they've been getting the fans on their side a bit. Because you've got 3 fucking badasses. Now, you've had your marquee match with the Revolt and Young Bucks. They've not eaten shit. I mean, this has been an absolute killer match. It has been the S-Class. Me and you are gushing about it. Dave Meltzer his dick has finally exploded.
He's finally given an American match 5 stars.
I think he already has, but it was a Young Bucks match.
Yeah, obviously.
But you know what I mean? He has. So they have had that match, and now that the Revolt can sit at the top, they can fend off babyface challengers, left and right. So we're booking it almost like a classic. I'm booking it almost like a classic world championship. Because the tag team is really important in AEW.
Yeah, it is.
During this time, Death Triangle are a bunch of badass heels, and they are badass, and they are destroying people. And do you know what happens when you are badass heels that destroy people? You turn face. Your crowd turns you face.
Yeah,
and
true.
You've got Revolt are sitting on top of this crowd, and they're having to start doing some of these wins with a newly revived. We can bring up. There's obviously other babyface teams and that, but we need maybe a couple. Maybe SCU comes back up and Best Friends come back up, and they give them a really hard match, and maybe they
Private Party.
Private Party, perfect. And they're having to cheat. They had to cheat to beat Private Party.
That's putting over your newer people.
Which isn't a bad thing. They've cheated to win before, but they've had to cheat to beat Private Party. And of course, you're sitting at the top. You've got your badasses, and it's my thing where I like that badass and your badass new babyface team comes out, and we have the Revolt versus Penta and Phoenix.
I mean, I love Pentagon, and I don't think I can say whether Lucha Underground Pentagon was a face or a heel, because all he did was be a twat. And if you're booking that, I'm in.
Basically, they are a face team. They are tweener faces versus the tweener heels. So yeah, because the marquee match for me, the Young Bucks versus the Revolt, is the marquee match, but it's all you build up to, and that's the explosion. I think you can get an extra bit out of it by having that badass.
Yeah, by having the secondary riser.
Having the tweener badass baby faces that suddenly rise up behind them.
I find it terrifying to picture Pac as a babyface, if I'm honest. I think he may have to go back to a tag team. I mean, I know you saw The Amazing Neville, but to me, Pac just looks like a terrifying evil dwarven king who is so ripped.
So yeah, but that's not a problem. He's a terrifying, good dwarven king, and more classic dwarf king.
I mean, if they brought Pac out as a dwarven king, I'd fucking pop.
I just want to say, when we refer to dwarf king, we are talking fantasy genre, nothing else. We are literally talking about a guy with the beard, because the Raptor wants to throw another thing in. So when Drew McIntyre leaves WWE, fuck him over, she wants him to come and join a tag team with Pac as the Dwarven Kings.
Oh God!
And Drew McIntyre is 7 foot tall. We are talking men that look like fantasy dwarves.
Yeah, it's like in The Hobbit, when people first saw The Hobbit. Yeah, and I don't like Lord of the Rings. That's a rant for another time. But yeah, no, because my Dwarven Kingdom also has Ishimori from NJPW and Lindemann from the Strong Hearts in it. Yeah. Oh, and John Silver from the Dark Order. He's got a Dwarven King look to him as well. But they're not the king, because Pac is the king.
Yeah, maybe Drew Galloway comes over to
join,
because that would be. And you talk about a man tossing contest. We watched Drew versus Will Ospreay the other day, and he's your third man in your man tossing contest, because Drew can throw a man.
Yep, yeah, he can. Also, there's a lot of wrestlers have what I think of as like indie souls, and Drew's one of them. He's from there too much. You can escape and you can go do your bit in the WWE, but some of you just have indie souls.
Well, he is the flip side. We watched the Drew 24/7. His was all about getting back to WWE, but he picked up his indie soul after he didn't. So getting back to WWE has always been his thing, but he grew an indie soul, and I think But yes, so I think you have your marquee match with the
build up to the Bucks, and then you give them a secondary one against
secondary one with the other team. So because you have 3 teams that are considered the best in the world, and the other one is Penta and Phoenix. And you can also Neville can piss off and go and challenge against a heel for the AEW.
Oh yeah, Pac can do anything. If Pac showed up in any part of the leagues and any title and went, "I'm going for this," I'd believe him.
In fact, so we can retcon some of our stuff. So for the TNT, so you've got Lance Archer as the TNT champion, big Lance Archer who swats away little guys.
Oh,
and you can have babyface, tweener, badass Pac dealing with Lance Archer at the same time. So you can have this, and you can almost have maybe put Lance Archer with the Revolt. You can have a little thing where they're maybe watching each other's backs.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
You've got this secondary triad.
Life triangle.
Life triangle. Yeah, this secondary heel, triad of them watching each other. Jake the Snake could have been going to, could be like playing the manager thing with the Revolt, another group that don't need it, but he can see the.
Apparently, the Revolt got on with a lot of old school dudes. They were close to Dusty, I believe.
It's because they've got an old school gimmick.
Yeah, so and I think
they'd probably be better with Tully.
Yeah, I can see that.
With Tully or Arn, with maybe a heel turned on, to be honest, because
it's going to happen.
They are effectively Tully and Arn version 2. But I see them as the champions, and then you bring in a badass babyface, which the Bucks, as much as they are the greatest,
they're not really baby faces.
I mean, they can be heels, but if you're having them as baby faces, they are, and because they are the way they are that kind of baby face. They are more the white meat baby face when they're baby faces. They're the pretty boy baby faces. They're lethal because they're so good. I think you need the couple of guys that are just, no flips, no fists. Well, we bring flips and fists.
Yeah, here we go. We are everything.
And I think that would you've then rebuilt your division back up to having 3 top teams.
And you can go anywhere with your new dynamic.
Yeah, you've got 3 top teams, and you've got a babyface team, an out-and-out heel tweener team, and an out-and-out and a babyface tweener team, which I think works better. I mean, and you've got your heel teams. You've always got your cycle of heel teams.
Yeah. I mean, currently AEW is heel dominated.
Yeah,
you're a lot better at this booking thing than me. I need to work on this. I'm going to start writing full fucking fanfics for our new TNT expanded universe.
Effectively, what I do, I just fanfic it. I try and sort of think about how many other teams can we make on the way, and when you're doing it, you're making that one team.
Hey, next time we do one of these, I'm coming in with fucking pages of documents. I'm gonna have a spreadsheet and everything. I'll be like, all right, let's fucking do this.
Well, we fantasy booked Kota, and I just left you with that.
Yeah, it's true. I do know the Golden Lover story pretty well, I suppose.
Oh, there you go. So and there's your flip side. So eventually, of course, we can lead to the Golden Lovers versus Penta and Phoenix.
It's fully turned. We've gone all the way, and then they break down, and Penta and Phoenix go on their indie runs. On next week's episode.
Yeah, we're running out of how to books now. So I think that now leads us down with that time, as we're running out of how to books. We are Wrestle Opinionated on Spotify and Anchor.fm. I would like to say thanks to Anchor FM for hosting. And because we are running out of ideas of stuff to fantasy book, over to you, Mr. Strange.
Hi there. Please do send some things to us. Send it through on the email. Comment on Twitter. If you like Twitter, talk to me. I will talk back, and I'm the one responsible for that. So I'm more likely to be cynical and sweary, I suppose, is the best way to put that. But I don't have as much as a professional mind as my good friend Morg here. Yeah, questions, suggestions, send through anything. Play this to your friends. Play it to your family. Give us some criticism if you think we're better in a certain direction or not in another. Throw that through. We will talk about, respond, or deal with anything, and I will personally swear at you on Twitter. Please do get back to us. We enjoy having the external stimulus. Back to you, Morg.
So all that's left to be said now is goodbye and good night.